Happy August, everybody. And here is the August first waivers report. So we are in our last month of first contact summer, right? And I've done a lot of videos on that. And just, we knew that the energy of the summer was going to be intense. And usually every year the summer is a little bit intense regardless. But this year, obviously, we had lots of big transits, right? Like going back to June, we had Chiron entering Taurus for the first time since the 70s. We had Jupiter entering Leo, exiting Cancer. So those were big moments. The summer solstice. And then we moved into July, which was all around a very challenging month. I feel the reason it was very challenging was because of that Mercury retrograde in Cancer. And I talked about that and, first contact being first contact with your future self, right? I think a lot of what we're talking about this year is this is a 1 year. It's a fire horse year. We had the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at the 0 degrees of Aries back in February, right? We had Barbolt basket in July, right? Which involved all the outer planets, Neptune and Jupiter and Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini. And we've been talking a little bit about the new incarnation cross of 2027. So when you zoom out, and you can't look at transits in a vacuum, right? You kind of have to zoom out and look at it all as a whole, right? What is the overall energy telling us? What is the overall pattern showing us? And I think the overall pattern, when you look at it, is saying, this is a completely new journey. This is not the same energy. This is not the same timeline. This is not the same structure that we've been in. And so we have to understand, everybody wants change. And I think the change is here. And a lot of people say, I don't see anything changing. And really, you have to sense this on a personal level. A lot of times the external world, right, takes a while to respond to the energies that we feel instantaneously, right? The earth, nature, our bodies, we sense the energies and the frequencies. When those shifts happen, right? We sense it. It takes a very long time sometimes for those shifts to become very apparent in the external world on a large scale. So what we're going through is we're going through a very individualized process. And again, I think that this really kicked off with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at the 0 degrees of Aries, right? Saturn is the bridge into the physical. Saturn tests our ability to embody, to master, to really anchor something in. And Neptune is consciousness. So Saturn is taking the consciousness, right? Neptune is a lot about the vision. It is the upper dimensions of consciousness, right? There's an evolution with Neptune. Saturn's taking the new consciousness, right? The new vision, the new world, and it is anchoring it in through individuals. This is not a group journey. This is not even really a collective journey anymore. It is an individual journey. And that is what all the astrology is telling us. So July was pretty challenging because as we were receiving kind of this feeling, right? I call it the new signal. We were all getting in tune with what is the new signal, the new frequency that is coming from the future self and is coming from the future paradigm. And then when that comes into the now, what happens is everything around you that is not aligned with that starts to get very loud, very uncomfortable, because it no longer fits. Okay, so as an example, it would be like, if you have an experience where you experience joy, magic, right? Everything feels aligned. You feel alive. You feel fantastic, right? And then a couple of days later, all of a sudden you feel the weight of your current experience. You might fall back into depression or into just struggling because you know what it feels like. And now you're reverting back. And that is kind of what July felt like. But we actually weren't reverting back anywhere. We were simply having to acknowledge where things don't fit anymore. And that sometimes is a deeply uncomfortable process because it involves change, right? And so August being the solar flash month, and I talked about this, the solar flash is an individualized event. It is no longer like, this external event that we're waiting for to happen. It is an individual experience. And basically, a lot of what August is going to show us is the contrast, right? Again, we're moving to transcend duality. But I think in terms of really aligning with the new, which is very North Node in Aquarius, alignment requires contrast, right? Because if you don't know the difference between what feels misaligned and what feels aligned, then you don't know the difference, right? It's kind of why we've had to have duality for, 26,000 years, was we had to understand and experience what light feels like and what dark feels like. We had to understand what good feels like and what bad feels like. We had to know what positive feels like and what negative feels like. It doesn't mean that we have to continue to live in that state where we see everything as good and bad and right and wrong and this and that, because that leads to attachment. It leads to suffering. And a lot of what the North Node in Aquarius is going to be doing as we progress into this 18-month cycle, the motto of Aquarius is just like, it is what it is, right? Like Aquarius is very detached. They're not falling necessarily into the emotional intensity and attachment that sometimes Leo does. But Leo teaches us that we have to care and we have to find that optimism and that joy and that hope that keeps us alive, right? Sometimes the shadow of Aquarius is pessimism. What they're very good at is they see things for what they are. They see reality for what it is. And that is what makes them very honest and authentic. But that can border on pessimism and, right, a little bit of like losing faith and losing hope in what could be, and just kind of being like, no, this just is what it is, right? And so this is the Leo Aquarius axis. And it's also a lot about finding our creative spark, in realizing that it's up to us, right, to create. You have to create the new earth. You have to create the new paradigm in your individual life. You have to embody the new frequency. Again, this is not a group project. This is an individual one. And so August is going to bring the contrast of this. And it is the month of the solar flash. But again, how do we know what light feels like if we don't know the opposite? And so we're going to see that contrast this month. So it is a little bit of still a challenging month, because we also have eclipse season. And we're going to talk about eclipse season, but it is preparing us for the fall, which is a hugely integrative time. We're going to feel a lot more, hopefully calm down a little bit in the fall. Like basically what I feel is that the energy and the consciousness and the frequency is moving very, very fast. And part of what's happening and what I'm noticing is that our nervous systems are struggling to catch up to that. Our nervous systems are struggling to hold that frequency, that intensity, and that pace. And I know this year has felt like that for a lot of people. It has just felt like we just can't cope sometimes with the levels of experience that we're having to go through. The fall is when things calm down. The fall is when the nervous system gets to reset. But this is the month where it's kind of all coming to fruition. So we are in the Lionsgate energy every year between August 1st and August 8th. We hit the Lionsgate portal, right? Now, the Lionsgate, and pretty much starting from July like 3rd or 4th to August 11th, which is right after Lionsgate. This was known, this is why they call them the dog days. This was a time where the ancients noted that people seemed to, they called it the dog days because, for one, they used to say that dogs would become rabid and kind of manic during this time. And it's because the sun is aligning with Sirius during this time. And this peaks around Lionsgate, right? And Sirius, of course, is known as the dog planet, right? Or the dog star. And they also noticed that people tended to experience like a lot of heat, illness. They had a lot of theories that this time of year was when illnesses spread the most, right? So they kind of, they didn't understand everything at those times. So they would just kind of create these like myths around it. And it's not necessarily that this time period is just when disease goes rampant, right? But think about it. It's hot. For the northern hemisphere, at least, it's extremely hot, right? And when our body feels a lot of heat, it feels overwhelmed. We also, Cancer season and Leo season are a lot about the expression of self, and so I think there can be this. A lot of emotional outbursts, emotional breakdowns, nervous breakdowns, right? And they used to mention and document that people would go into madness during this time. There was almost like these psychotic, manic episodes. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with the energy of this time of the year. With that being said, we're in the Lionsgate portal. Now, how I view it is that from the 1/1 to the 8/8, we are in a initiation every year. Okay, we are actively starting to build something from the beginning of the year. And around Lionsgate, whatever we've been working on, building towards, creating, embodying, comes to a full fruition. And then between 8/8 and 9/9, we enter kind of a period of reflection, sometimes revision, right? This is usually Virgo season. Because once we get to the 9/9, we get to see what is going to come forward with us and what needs to be let go of. We go through an organization, revision, and kind of simplification period, and that always corresponds with Virgo season. And so then when we go through the 10/10, 11/11, and 12/12 portals, those are portals of mastery. Those are portals of basically, think about, ideally if we were going to continue on with traditional schooling, it would actually make the most sense to me that you would have school from January to August, right? And then around the 9/9 portal, you would essentially take a reflection period, a study period, right? And then the later months are literally just to see if can we pass the test, right? Can we show that we've mastered something throughout the year? Those portals actually are portals of preparation that prepare you for the next initiation of the next year, right? So that's why the fall and the winter always feel a little bit different, not just weather-wise, but energetically than the rest of the year. So we have... So in the Lionsgate portal now, we also have Chiron going retrograde on August 3rd. He is preparing to return to Aries in September. Okay, so we had a 4-month window with Chiron in Taurus. He will go back to Aries in September and stay there till April of next year. Now, one of the things that the Chiron retrograde is going to bring up, and I think one of the lessons that this transit is showing us, there's a lot about self-worth issues. There's also, on a bigger scale, to me, it's about where we are wasting our resources. Okay, and in the realm of Taurus, this could be your physical resources. Where do you feel like there's just no purpose? It's being wasted in some way. It can bring up blocks to receiving. right? Blocks of self-worth, to actually receiving the blessings and the things that we've worked towards, because we have some wound that prevents that, right? It's also where we're wasting our time, energy, effort, labor, our presence. So again, August is kind of a review here with the contrast. We need to review and really discern where we have been wasting our precious resources. And we need to reclaim that, because a lot about the solar flash energy this month is not only the contrast, right? We're going to be experiencing both the high highs and maybe the low lows, but more so we're getting the contrast so that we can actively start creating the life and the path that we want to live. And in order to do that, we have to see very clearly what we don't want and what we do want, what we will work towards and what we will not work towards, what we will invest in and what we will not invest in. So there's going to be that little review period. And then on the 6th, right before the portal, Venus enters Libra. Now, Venus has been in Virgo for the past month. And honestly, I have Venus in Virgo. So for me, it's always a sorting period. Venus in Virgo is about simplification. We have to really prioritize our time, our wellness. What is draining our energy? Where do we have too much going on and we need to simplify, right? Venus in Virgo is about the simplistic efforts, the day-to-day little things, but there's also a big focus there, right, on relationships. What relationships are healthy for us? What relationships are not? What relationships cause distractions and complications, and which ones are effortless, right? And so when Venus enters Libra, this is one of the blessings of this month, because Venus is the ruler of Libra, okay? So we have her there all month. It's a beautiful energy of, again, really focusing on relationships and connections that have reciprocity, that bring joy and fulfillment to your life, and maybe seeing where certain relationships don't do that, where they're out of balance. We want to create a sense of enjoyment and beauty and harmony this month. So the other thing I would say is this is a month to protect your peace. Protect your peace. Again, this is an individual journey now. We are responsible, right? Venus and Libra is going to be opposing Saturn, Neptune, and Aries. So we have to stand in our own self-authority. We have to have clear boundaries. And then we also have to really decide and discern where our energy flows effortlessly, where it brings us enjoyment and fulfillment, where it creates peace and harmony, where there's balance and reciprocity, and where there is not. Again, we are on the path of alignment right now with Pluto and the North Node in Aquarius. Everything is about alignment now. Everything is about resonance and frequency. Nothing is personal. It is simply about whether people, places, and things align to the life that you are building, the new earth frequency that you are coming in, and where they don't. Okay, so protect your peace this month, but I really love Venus and Libra. She's at home here. There's like, you can breathe. It feels a little bit like, oh, okay, I can relax, focus on the beauty, focus on art. This is such a creative month with Venus and Libra, and we're going to have a stellium in Leo. It's a very creative month. So really dive into any like passion projects, creative hobbies, creative outlets. Okay. So Venus will be in Libra entering the 8/8 portal. I love this. It's such a community celebratory kind of energy. And then the day after the portal, we have Mercury entering Leo. Thank God for this, okay? We have had this extended stay of Mercury in Cancer and a retrograde. It has been tough. As I've mentioned, Mercury doesn't do well in water signs. It's just the reality of it. We can feel like Mercury's our mental body, so we can be constantly thinking about the past and the future. Also, we could have felt like we're just kind of locking on to situations or emotions that where we feel wounded or we feel slighted in some way. Like there's a lot of kind of like emotional resentment with Cancer energy sometimes. And so I feel like maybe we've all just kind of been harping on things that we really just need to let go of. And again, this comes from the first contact. What cannot come into the future? And I think for a lot of us, this has been a very emotional last month, and it's been a lot of reflection. And now it's time to let go. It really is time to let go of the past and move forward. So Mercury in Leo is going to really activate, again, our expression, our creativity. We're focused on what we want to create instead of what has happened and what we cannot change. We need to focus on the future. And this is that second week of August, the 9th through the 13th. This is like a really potent time here because this is leading up to the total solar eclipse in Leo. So we will have a Leo stellium that week. The Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, and the South Node. And then on the day of the eclipse, the Moon as well. So just before that total solar eclipse, which is on the 12th, on the 11th, we have Mars entering Cancer. This is my least favorite transit of August because with all the Leo energy, right? There's just, Leo is loud, okay? And that's not a negative thing. It's loud energy. It's ruled by the sun. Okay, so everyone is kind of seeking attention. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone's going to be very sensitive to feeling like they are not being acknowledged, that maybe insecurities are coming up, where we are not self-confident, right? Where we might be seeking external validation. Like sometimes a lot of the Leo energy can be overwhelming for that reason. And when you throw Mars and Cancer in the mix, Mars does not do well in Cancer. It is in its fall. There can be defensiveness, emotional volatility. People can act out of emotion. And coupled with the Leo energy, this could be a little bit of a strenuous week. And this is why I said it's going to be a contrast, right? But with Venus and Libra, protect your peace. That's it. Focus on the process that you're going through. Focus on your creativity, your expressions, the beauty of you. This is a big month for self-love. And especially when Mars goes into Cancer, on a metaphysics level, Mars in Cancer can cause a lot of inflammation, right? Because Mars is action. It's assertiveness. It can be aggressiveness, right? It's our output. It's the way we drive ourselves out into the world. And in Cancer, this rules the stomach. It rules emotions. It rules things that are really bothering us, right? On like an emotional level. So this can lead to pent up emotions. This can lead to emotional outbursts. This can lead to taking things personally, defensiveness, conflicts. This creates inflammation. So that week, if you guys are guided leading up to that eclipse, this is a great time to work on reducing inflammation. So this means rest, relaxation. I would recommend salt baths. Maybe just being cognizant of, taking care of the stomach and digestion, like not eating foods or beverages that might be over-inflammatory, right? Things that are calming. We're going to have to find our zen. Okay. Now, the beauty of Mars in Cancer that we can utilize is starting from there through the rest of the month, we need to find balance between rest and relaxation and getting things done. Remember, Cancer is ruled by the moon. So when Mars is in Cancer, our energy levels are not solid. Like Mars in Gemini, I call that a high energy type. Okay. So you guys might have heard me talk about this before, but every Mars placement is a different energy type. You have high energy types, you have mid energy types, and then you have low energy types. Okay. Mars in Gemini is a high energy type. So that's why, even though there was so much kind of, such an emotional, kind of triggering and transformational journey of July, we had a lot of restless energy. It was like we were just overstimulated. We had a lot of energy, but we weren't even sure what to do with it. This could also lead to things like insomnia or anxiety, things of that nature. That's Mars in Gemini. It's a high energy type, so it needs constant output. Mars in Cancer is a low energy type. It's ruled by the moon. So this will be a period, like I said, contrast. We are going to have times this month where we are highly excited, creative, optimistic. We're having a great time. We are enjoying, our lives. We're enjoying our connections. We're enjoying what we've built, what we've worked towards. And then there's going to be other times where we need to take a step back. We need to rest. We need to go into solitude. We need to go into reflection. It's going to be a little bit like this month. So again, we just ride the wave. I don't think it'll be as intense as July, but it is definitely a mixed bag this month. High highs, low lows, contrast energy. And so it's preparing us for the integration. But like I said, Mars in Cancer, watch out that week. Just don't bother with any drama, dysfunction, conflict. Just let it go. Focus on the health and wellness of your own emotional body. Focus on balance and putting your energy only where it is serving you, only where it is creating some self-love for yourself, right? Now, the total new moon solar eclipse on the 12th is at 20 degrees Leo, which is a Scorpio degree. So to me, these two represent contrast. Scorpio is the depths. Scorpio is the darkness, the unseen, quite literally the underworld, right? This is Scorpio. This is Leo. It's the light. You're fully bathed in the light of the sun where you do not see the shadows. Okay. And then Scorpio is the shadows. So I think that this solar eclipse is, it's catalyzing this new journey that we're on with the axes of Aquarius and Leo. It's blending the me and the we, creativity, collaboration, alignment, vision, right? Realism versus optimism. And these are some of the themes of this axis. But at 20 degrees, it's kind of telling me that this solar flash energy, right? The activation of the inner light is going to happen in the depths. So what you're going to see is you might see a lot of shadows playing out in the world, but then there will be light after, like darkest before the dawn kind of energy. But nonetheless, this can be jarring in terms of like what we're going to witness and what we have to see. But we have to remember, it is always darkest before the dawn. That is kind of the solar eclipse. I did also talk about this in my series about how there was allegedly a government project that was leaked. Of course, there's no way to confirm it or deny it, but it was circulating for a while earlier this year of a project called Project Anchor, where allegedly they were studying the potential loss of gravity on Earth, and they had the date of August 12th, which is the total new moon solar eclipse in Leo, where there is a stellium in Leo. Now, what's interesting about that date is not only because it's a solar eclipse, but the path of totality of this eclipse is over the North Pole. So there's a lot of factors here. The path of totality always does create catalytic events where the path is. Like, for instance, back in 2024, when we had the total solar eclipse in Aries, the path of totality ran from Texas through Arkansas, right along the Appalachian Mountains up towards the East Coast. Now we've seen lots of devastating and catastrophic weather and earth events along that path of totality since 2024. This is just how energy works, right? So over the North Pole, this is what creates our magnetic field. This is what creates the alignment of the magnetic field. So is there a potentiality of that? Sure. At this point in the game, I wouldn't say anything is off the table, but it is interesting to note. So this is going to be at 20 degrees Leo. Now the degree of this from 360 degrees of your star destiny, this describes this degree of this eclipse and says, it is supremely bright, carrying the inner light, no longer needing the reinforcement of idle display, yielded to the greater design, entirely involved with that which enables us to become at one with the true source within, driven to the utmost extreme to embody the inner intention rightfully, passionately convinced that nothing is too much to ask, willing and able to move mountains, only challenged and brought to attention by the ultimate, the infinite, what brings us always further beyond, smuggled in here to balance out the hypermaterial trends of the times. We are seeking to make light manifest, especially in dark times and places. So immediately, it's everything about the solar flash. It's everything about what we're talking about with contrast and darkest before the dawn and this kind of thing. Goes on to say, a cosmic specialist who has the task of making spirit count in the midst of the madness. So I'm not predicting anything. As you guys know, I don't do predictive astrology. I think it's, at this point in the game, it is almost nearly impossible to accurately predict anything, because the nature of the cosmos is also changing our understanding of the rules of reality, and the laws of reality are actively changing. But I do tend to see patterns, and this is why every time I see a pattern for a particular month and the themes that are emerging, and then we dive into the details of it, it always lines up. This is the theme. Chaos, a little bit of madness, darkest before the dawn. Again, I don't do it to fearmonger. It is what it is, as a North Node Aquarius would say, and I am a North Node Aquarius. Sometimes reality just is as it is. And it doesn't mean to lose hope and optimism. We have to keep that alive. That is what the Leo energy is telling us, right? That is what Jupiter in Leo alongside the South Node is telling us. There's a reason why Jupiter is traversing the South Node in Leo. At the same time, Pluto is traversing the North Node with Aquarius, because Pluto is a malefic. Pluto is going to show us the good, bad, and horrific of reality and of humanity, and what we've allowed to happen and what is going on, right? Aquarius is invisible systems and structures. Okay. It's things like timelines, quantum mechanics, space travel, the internet, social circles, collective groups, right? These are invisible structures, but they are there. Pluto is unearthing what is going on beneath the surface of these structures. This is why we are seeing the horrificness of what technology has brought. We are seeing the horrificness of what certain special groups, special collective groups have been doing behind the scenes. We are getting hit with the brutalness of what this reality is. And in order to cope with that, the South Node in Leo says we have to let go of kind of the blind optimism where we only want to look at the light. It's all rainbows and butterflies. It's all joy. It's not. But thank God, because Jupiter is alongside the South Node, and Jupiter is the great expander. So she is not going to let us lose our faith. She is not going to let us lose our optimism within this. She is going to say, in fact, it is within the madness and the darkest of times on earth and the kind of this great revealing that's going on where that energy is needed most, where your light is needed most, where your optimism and your visions and your creativity is needed most. And I think that that is what this month is going to highlight. It says, we are always intent on emphasizing the inner light. There is no moderate or modesty in any way. We are going absolutely all out to dramatize and give voice to the sacred, the numinous, the earthly existence. We are fulfilled in the Christ consciousness. We are most in tune with the Christ consciousness within, propelled by star guidance to find and restore alignment with Christ consciousness. Not here for self, proud of it. We are self-righteous somewhat, but willing to move through anything and everything. Excess zeal for a shadow that accompanies such light. Simply devoted beyond capacity. The mark of a prenatal resolve to be a shining light in the world, yet it is no longer a matter of how anybody sees it. The spirit flame lies within. The responsiveness is to the inner cues. This is pure aspiration in its highest form with all of its excesses. So that's going to be, it's a very big week. We do have about a week after the eclipse to integrate some things. There's nothing too crazy going on in the week following that eclipse, until we get to the 22nd of August, which is where we enter Virgo season. This is the season of purification. This is why Virgo season lies between 8/8 and 9/9. This is where we start to integrate. We start to sort through. This is a great time, and I will tell you guys, as protocols for the second eclipse at the end of August, which is the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces nonetheless. But I digress. My issues with these Pisces eclipses, I can't wait for them to be over. This is the time to purify on every level, right? This is the time to cleanse. Protective work is highly encouraged. I would also say, because the sun enters Virgo on the 22nd, Mercury enters Virgo on the 25th. Detox your body. Just do it. Detox your body, cleanse your home, clean everything. I'm telling you, you'll thank me later. Because this full moon lunar eclipse, which is on 8/28, it's at 4 degrees, which is a Cancer degree. So not only is this lunar eclipse a total ending of this Piscean era, we are ending the previous journey. We have to grieve it. We have to let it go, right? Cancer is also the past, the lineage. We are eclipsing the past. We're done. We have to move forward. But Cancer also rules the home, okay? Your home is your field. It is the container which supports your processes. If your home doesn't fit you, meaning energetically, your processes will be tougher. Now, I'm not saying everyone just go and move. I'm saying take care of your home. Connect with the essence of the home. Cleanse the home. I'm telling you guys, like, especially during Virgo season. Clean your sheets. They hold density. Vacuum, sweep, sage if you would like, candles, clean the little spaces, the little corners, right? Remove dust, remove broken items, remove excess clutter, reorganize. You will thank me later, because part of this full moon lunar eclipse is going to be such a cleansing, such a purging, okay, that you need the clearest space possible. So inside of your body, you need to be clear. Mercury in Virgo is also going to help us sort through our mental body, okay? And then remember, Mars will be in Cancer, so we want to reduce inflammation. We want to make sure all emotions are flowing through us and out this month. Don't hold it in. Don't stuff it down. Also, don't harp on it. Emotion, energy and motion, it has to flow out. Let it flow. Declutter your mind. Declutter your mind, especially when Mercury enters Virgo. Declutter your home. Declutter your life. Declutter your body, because this Pisces full moon lunar eclipse, it is the final Pisces eclipse. Thank God. But remember, Pisces is the ending of the end. And it is a total severing of whatever journey we have been on. it is a severing of that. So it's intense in its own right. Again, like I said, there is usually grief involved in that, but more so with Pisces, everything needs space to flow. When there is no space, nothing can flow. This is what entanglements happen. I would also highly recommend, like I said, protective work, clearing work, and especially during that eclipse weekend, I'll be putting out recommendations just for us we really want to hold the field of light around that time, because this is where things can get wonky. This is where things can get really strange with Pisces moons. And the the degree for this moon, as I said, 4 degrees. This one is very interesting as well. And it says, we are gifted with subtle faculties that work through the subconscious mind. Their presence can be felt deep within and is sensed as a doorway into worlds otherwise held away. However, these particular realms are forbidden, strange, and off limits to the collective. Therefore, we tend to hide what we're doing, even from ourselves, and to keep it within the realm of speculation. Perhaps something is happening, perhaps not. Within this incubator of the perfect alibi, the one who never knows for sure, the greatest mysteries and revelations can stream through unencumbered by any ego mind claiming it for themselves. Everything is pure, pristine, untouched by the corruption of what we make of things when we are captured in our own net. Again, this is why declutter on every level. Be an open stream for whatever divine revelations or wisdom wants to flow through this eclipse. The masterful smuggling in of psychic gifts, sacred tasks, and marvelous, boundless cosmic realities, given just enough elusive properties to keep the ball rolling and to make the spark the only thing we care about. We are especially devoted to making sure that the timeless spheres are given their true place in the mix without arousing and confronting the external authorities, right? The ego mind, the controllers. We are suspended within a stream of revelations, allowed to wander freely, tapping what could seem to be outlawed or suspect, the goddess revered through many names and guises. We are on a top secret mission. The only thing known on the surface is that somebody under there is still alive and even more outrageously navigating the places we all need to remember. Now the time for these things is returning, keeping the thread going no matter what. It is an extremely elemental, primal sense of life for what is to stay, because we love the mystery so very much. So it's hard to predict anything about a Pisces lunar eclipse. We'll talk more about that as we get there. Now for this month's seminars, I will be hosting the New Earth Activation Seminar on the 15th. So I feel we need to go through the Lion's Gate and through the total solar eclipse before we can do this month's activation, because we need to integrate all that light and then be able to push it out. So this month on the 15th, if you would like to join, we will be activating Stargate 5. The number 5 relates to the Hierophant in the tarot card, which is all about becoming the God self. It's about no longer looking to external sources of telling you what you need to do, external sources of God. It's about finding the God within, the guru within. And interestingly, the 3 nodes of this Stargate all have big spiritual kind of chords. Machu Picchu in Peru, Vatican City, and Bali. These are all locations where they have deep chords to this idea of kind of like external spirituality. And so that's going to be part of the activation, is severing that, because everybody has to become their own inner authority, their own God self. And also we all have a unique piece of the puzzle. And especially for first wavers, I think the most uncomfortable part of this journey moving forward is there is no more guidance from external authorities. The first wavers who can truly embody the God self energy will turn around to help and teach others, but we're never going to be in the position again where, you know, we tell others what to do. We can only share wisdom. We can only share our experiences and hope that it helps others along the way. But that's going to be a major activation. The number 5 is also about change, disruption. And so that Stargate is going to unlock, I think, a huge level of, again, that anchoring in of personal light, the God self coming through. This is essential for moving into 2027. The Cosmic Human Seminar I'll be hosting on the 22nd and 23rd of August. So I wanted to wait until Virgo season began. We are going to be working with, last month we did the Ring of Gaia. This was to work with the organic matrix, the organic grids, to start to reintegrate to the natural way of kind of collaborative living, right? Not physically, but that life is collaborative. Mother Earth, the fields that we exist in, they are all interactive. Life is alive. And so we have to return to the organic matrix, which is how the energy is supposed to naturally flow, right? Where we are always co-creating with life. There is a reciprocity. There is a giving and receiving, right? And it's a different way of being than the inverted matrix, right? The controlled matrix. It's a totally different way of operation. So this month we're going to do 2 rings that actually link into the Ring of Gaia, and I think will help us understand more deeply how to navigate the organic matrix, how to really align with it. And so the 2 rings that we are going to do in that seminar are going to be the Ring of No Return and the Ring of Origin. The Ring of No Return is, as it sounds, we cannot return to the past. And a lot of this month is telling us that. So it's to get in touch with how we have to move into the future and have to sever ties with the past. The Ring of Origin is very unique in nature. It's actually where Pluto has been in for a while and will be in for like another 2 years. And it is the start codon. It is the code activator for the mutation of our DNA as we evolve into essentially a new species. And so the Ring of Origin is a big one. And so we will be doing those 2 in the seminar. And then finally, I'll be hosting the September astrology gathering on August 29th. And we're going to talk about September is the preparation month. We have some heavy retrogrades this fall. I'm going to do a whole video on that. It is deeply healing, deeply regenerative. Again, it's a lot about nervous system regulation. Our nervous systems need to catch up with the energy, but there's also going to be such a deep dive, I think, into removing all sorts of blocks around self-worth, love, prosperity. Again, these are essential for us to work through. It is going to be a fall of solitude. We're not going to feel as external as we have the past like 6 or 7 months. So September is a preparation for that, but it is a beautiful month. There is some really good astrology, but I especially want to focus on the areas of everybody's charts where you have Scorpio, because that is going to be the theme of your life for October and November and a little bit of December. So that's the First Waivers report for this month. If you guys are guided to join any of the seminars, you can RSVP on the website, and I'll be back soon with some more updates for you.